great.
Is that okay? So as long as we've got that on, that will send the signal to there. So we'll use that.
Yeah.
And just is that best if it's on the presenter, or can it work here, for example? Is it best on?
How far are you going to move?
Yeah. Have you got somewhere to put that, Mary? Yeah. But you can clip it onto this lanyard. Yeah.
Yeah, just on the side.
Like this, you mean? Is that right?
Yeah, the other way around, but yes.
You can tell I'm not used to a mic.
Well, you're a rising star in the world of Moodle.
Is that okay? And then what do I do with this then? Clip that somewhere. Oh yeah, there's a thought. How about clipping it onto here? Oh, that's going to fall off, isn't it? Yeah, that's going to be
The other thing is to hold it. If it's a pain.
Well, I mean, can I not just leave it here? Because I intend to try and stay here.
Yeah, we can put it there.
And if you rest it on here.
Yeah. That'll be
Will
fine.
that be all right? Yeah, that's fine. Okay then.
As much slack as we can give you.
Yeah, I mean, I do normally pace up and down, but this will force me to stay put, won't it? Plus, if I wander over there, you won't be able to see it on the camera. So. Okay. Whoops.
And the camera will start automatically. Yeah. So we've still got 10, 15 minutes.
Well, no, actually, we're starting at 2. Oh. We are, yes. I know, it keeps changing. So, should we start? No. Okay, then. No, it's fine. Yeah.
We're starting a minute or two late. My name is Jude Judges, but I'm just here to help facilitate the session. I've got the easy job, but I'm really pleased to introduce both presenters this afternoon, and really looking forward to seeing what they've got to say. So without further ado, perhaps, if I can introduce teacher, dare I say, Moodle expert. I say that, even if you don't, Mary.
Not sound expert, mate.
Author of Moodle 2, a first look. I'm certainly starstruck if no one else is. So without further ado, can I welcome Mary Cooch, who's going to tell us all about It's Not As Scary As I Thought.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Mary Cooch, and the title of the session is Moodle. It's not as scary as you think. Just by way of an introduction then, I kind of wear several hats at the moment. My oldest and, if you like, my dearest hat is a secondary school teacher. I've also recently started in recent years to do some primary liaison. So I've taught for 25 years at a high school in Preston, major languages, a bit of geography. Recently too, I've also done some work with year 5s and year 6s in our feeder primary schools, helping them. They work on our Moodle. And since about 2007-2008, I've also been taken off the main teacher timetable, and I do training for a training company based in my school, Our Learning, and also a little bit of work for Synergy Learning too, basically going out and showing teachers and businesses, anyone who will have me, how to use Moodle. And then my hobby hat, if you like, is I just like to go on the Moodle forums to answer the questions, write books about Moodle, blog about Moodle, make screencasts about Moodle, basically eat, sleep and breathe Moodle. So what I would like to show you today is a little bit of things that I've learned along the way to make Moodle a little bit less scary. The title was actually inspired by a teacher in a middle school in Redditch that I went to do some training at last year. And at the end of the afternoon, this lady came up to me and said, "Oh, thank you very much. It's not as scary as I thought." And I thought, well, not only is that a really lovely thing to have said to you, but actually it does reflect the fact that not everyone who has to learn Moodle is as competent in ICT and as keen and enthusiastic as we are. And it's sometimes a battle, if you like, to enthuse and to engage these people who, whether they want to or not, have to learn Moodle. And I'm actually going to use the battle analogy a little bit. If you like, the teachers are the foot soldiers in the front line, which I'm going to focus on mostly, but also the importance of your rear guard, background support, if you like. Our teachers in the chalk face, we don't use chalk anymore, but I don't know, interactive whiteboard faces and have quite the same ring about it. But they're the ones really who we need to help in order for Moodle to be a success. And I think one of the things to bear in mind is that you should always be sensitive to their individual backgrounds. I mean, when as a teacher, when I deal with pupils, we call it baggage, you know, the baggage that they bring into the classroom. It's the same for users who are new to Moodle, not just teachers, but any kind of users. I mean, two examples here, two extreme examples. Very often I will go to sessions and it's always a woman. It's never a man, right? It's always a woman, and she'll come in and she'll say, oh, I'm special needs, I am. Just be gentle with me. You'll lose me in the first 10 minutes, but don't worry, I'm special needs. And she always does much, much better than she thinks or she claims she would by the end. It's just a way of, you just have to be gentle. On the other hand, actually, not always in schools, but in other enterprises where I've trained people, and quite often on the Moodle forums as well, you'll get someone who'll come in, and this, paradoxically, this is always a man, and it's never a woman. And he will come in and he'll say, well, I am completely new to Moodle. I've not used Moodle before, but I've got a background in web design, and I'm pretty hot on PHP, and I've got my own setup on my server, you know, Ubuntu, Debian, Red Hat, Linux, whatever. But I'm just trying to code. I'm just trying to code the front page at the moment. If you can help me get the files off the server to add a bit of text and image. And I'm saying, no, you don't have to do any coding. Just go into the front page settings, include a topic section, and you can have it. And they're like, oh, right. It's almost as if some people, if you like, are too clever for Moodle, and they need to lower themselves and be aware that it's not made for these people who have this technical website background. And sometimes that can be a disadvantage, and you've got to think more along the special needs line, really. The other thing that has become very apparent to me is that I don't know everything. I might know about the technical side of it, but in terms of what people want, I don't know. And there's a great example. This is a rural school, tiny school, in the back of Beyond on the way to Lancaster, and they called me in February and they said, we wanted to show us how to use a chat room for our year 5, which is like 9-year-olds. I said, no, you don't. I said, yes, we do. I said, look, I've actually switched off the chat room at my school because all it does, no educational value, all it does is they go on it and they say, hiya, and then someone else goes on and they go, hiya, and then they beep you, which is really annoying. And they said, yes, that's exactly what we want. So I'll let them explain it themselves. And it's a good example of how I should be more humble and listen to what people want.
We're teachers at St Mary's Second Primary School in Highland Broth in Lancashire. A very small school, secondary school, with 32 children. The most recent thing that we've exploring is the chat room. This has arisen because some of our pupils have been talking about Facebook, and obviously Facebook is not allowed for children under the age of 14, and our oldest children are 11. So we've seen this as a safe environment when children start to explore chatting to each other, with us overviewing it all, making sure that they're safe.
I think it's going to prove very useful as a taster to how the world is changing, the world of social network, but as my colleague says, in a very safe environment with us overviewing things, but then not feeling intimidated at the same time.
Okay, I used to start, when I had groups of people, I used to start by showing them this and saying, if you can get into Moodle, it will tick off all these educational acronyms that you have to use, whether you like it or not, assessment for learning, social and emotional aspects of learning, and so on and so forth. But it didn't work, and you could see them looking at their watches thinking, yeah, we know, get on with it. So actually, what I do now is instead, I put this slide on to start. I've no idea who she is, just some random woman that I've downloaded off the internet, but basically, she represents what I try to get across, which is that if you use Moodle and you use it wisely, you can be like that woman sitting with a cup of coffee chilling out in front of the telly, because Moodle's doing the work for you and it's giving you a better quality of life. Because I think that is what will catch them more than the educational value or the ticking boxes or anything like that, really. In terms of how long to show them Moodle, I've done myself everything from 2 days down to 2 minutes. 2 days is a luxury where you can really get into it intensely and do it thoroughly. Most times I tend to do a day or a half a day, and within that time, I always try to highlight the merits of self-marking activities like Moodle quiz, and also for when I teach teachers, hot potatoes, because actually that's a lot easier than the Moodle quiz, and it's something that you can easily put up. You don't even have to save it as a web page. You can just put it up in its project format, and it just works. And then it marks itself. If we look at the less amount of time then, if we kind of start at the bottom, 2 minutes. This is not my idea. Many of these aren't my idea. I've just learned them. The credit for this is our assistant head, my Moodle boss, Mark Greenwood, NGR Tech, on Twitter. And when we first got Moodle at my school, we have a weekly staff briefing for 10 minutes every Monday morning before we go off to do our registers in assembly. And he would get someone from each department just to stand in front of the staff. We've got one of these interactive whiteboards in our staff room, and show how they were using Moodle in their department. ICT department were banned, because ICT department is very bad at starting off Moodle, because then people think, oh, it's for ICT teachers. So you got the PE teacher to stand up and to show how they were using videos of maybe different trampolining exercises. He got the drama teacher to show examples of different national curriculum levels of certain things. And then, or the English teacher, how he was using forums in the GCSE Romeo and Juliet set text. And so then in 2 minutes, it just sparks off an idea in other teachers, and then they'll go and they'll say, oh, can you show me how you did that forum? How did you put that video up? And just ideas, really. Again, not my idea, nice picture, but not my idea. I learned this last year in this Moodle meet from a lady called Kathy Chilvers. And basically, again, teachers have so little free time. In my school, you'd be lucky if you get 3 hours free a week. And so what she did, which now I think is a great idea, is you get them, you sit them down for 10 minutes and you show them one simple idea, Q&A forum, online text assignment, and then they go off and they try that, and then they can pass it on to somebody else, for instance. Those two, of course, you have to have already learned Moodle, or a little bit of Moodle, in advance. The shortest amount of time that I've ever had to start people off and show people Moodle is an hour, because we'll quite often get invited to after-school inset, and they slot me in for 1 hour in amongst preparing for Ofsted and doing something about OpenEview and what have you. So I've got an hour to sell them Moodle. And what I do, basically, giving you all my secrets here, is I start with the link to a website. Just a simple click here to go to a website. It revolutionised my life, because for years, when I've been at this school since 1985, when we finally got the internet in a classroom, I'd take them in and I would write on the board the website, and then all the pupils would be typing the website address in, and then you'd type it into Google and it wouldn't work, and then you'd find out where to type it in properly, page not found, and you'd waste 10 minutes of the lesson. And for the teachers to learn that if they do it in Moodle, and all the pupils have to do is click here and they're straight on it, it's actually, for non-technical people, a huge revelation, and they think, oh, it's come up, it's worked. Next one I do is in Moodle 1.9 called Composer web page. Much better in Moodle 2, just a page. And that is a simple way of showing information. Yeah, typing it in, if you just wanted to read something. Or, with a huge caveat, yes I know, pasting it in. And the reason that I show them this is because if they can do that, which is dead simple, they're only one step away from doing the online text assignment. And there, what you're doing is you're doing a web page with information, then you're getting your children to type the answer back. So they are actually hands-on back. And if you can get things that the pupils are doing, instead of statically reading the web links on the web page, they're going to want to keep coming back. So I'll finish off with another perfect example of something that's minimal input, but maximum result, which is a forum. Again, very easy to set up. I prefer the single, simple discussion, because then they can't go off at a tangent. They can only reply to what you want them to talk about. I haven't shown them yet how to upload all their wonderful PowerPoints or Word documents. Of course it's important. Of course, with longer time, I will show them that, and how to zip them up as well, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people don't realise you can and spend hours uploading them individually. But I do have a handout, double-sided A4, and on the one side it says, get your work on Moodle, the modern way, the easy way, which is the web page. And on the other side, the old-fashioned way, still as good, but if you want to do it that way, fine. And that's where I show them how to upload their Word documents and so on. Handouts, always, it is important. I've never known quite how to deal with it, because personally, I just like to play, but many people feel comfortable writing things down and reading it. And I know I'm under no illusion, no way are these people ever going to spend money and read a book about Moodle. They've got lives, they don't want to. So what I do is I have a Moodle course, and if I have admin control over the Moodle, I'll put it on for them. If not, I'll give it on a USB pen to the person who does. And it's got little screencasts for those people who like to watch the mouse and follow it, and single-side A4 printable help sheets that they can look at and follow, keeping it simple, really. Another thing that works really well, again, not my idea, is if I have a bit longer, for the first 15, 20 minutes or so, put them in a course as a student, and they can see how the activities work from the student's point of view. And this actually is a good icebreaker, and also it can get very, very competitive, because I like to put a quiz on. I usually do a Spanish quiz, because they don't all speak Spanish, so that's a bit of excitement. And then they can get a lot of rivalry between teachers in departments as to who's got the highest quiz if you use that quiz results block. Dead simple and works quite effectively. You see, I haven't actually ever trained Johnny Depp, I have to say, but it does remind me of something else that's nicely worked out, which is that wherever possible, I like to know the names of the people who are going to learn Moodle in advance, so I can give them real accounts, as opposed to the sort of generic delegate one or teacher one. But I don't always get the names in advance. So again, I learned this from a lady on the French-speaking Moodle forums of Moodle.org, and what she does is she has little cards with names of celebrities, and then she hands them out at the beginning, and so you never know whether you're going to be George Clooney or Martin Clunes or Kate Moss or Barbara Windsor, and it's quite fun. And at least then I've got some names, and they know who they are. Do you see them in the different topic sections there? A lot of people who show people how to use Moodle. I'm always wary of saying Moodle training, because I don't. So show people how to use Moodle. They give each person their own course, which is good, because they got a lot of freedom. You can alter all the settings, but it's a bit lonely. So unless I have loads of them, I like to put them in one course where they can see everything else that other people are doing, and they can interact with each other. They can go and look at the choices. They can type on their forums, and it's more convivial. And also in the real world, they probably are going to be working with another teacher or tutor on the same course, and they can see things changing. You might have realised that that's actually a Moodle 2 course, which is where I'm going to come to next. How best to present Moodle 2 to people who are reasonably comfortable with 1.9 and then are moving on. I've done a fair bit of training on Moodle 2 with people who've never done it before, and they don't have any issues. But from what I gather, the issues are people who've moving from 1 to 2. Just as a really, really unstatistical straw poll, ask some teachers just to play on my Moodle Fairies Moodle 2 for a few weeks for you, and then to give me the thoughts. Secondary school teachers, primary school teachers. So here's just a few of their initial impressions. I didn't tell them anything. I just gave them a course and said, go and play. Okay.
Hi, I'm Pete Robinson, principal teacher of music at Our Lady's Catholic High School. My initial thoughts are that it strikes me as being a lot more intuitive than the old version of Moodle. A little bit more like behaving a little bit more like I would expect a mobile phone to behave, or other computer programs.
Hi, I'm a French teacher at Our Ladies, and I've been testing out the new Moodle from Mary. I found it really easy to use. I was really impressed how easy it was to insert video clips straight from YouTube, which is ace for French, because there's loads of different songs and clips and things that we can show and put them in straight away without having to upload everything through the internet. And I thought it was really a good idea how you could make comments on anywhere on the page, on the site, on different people's pages and sites, Word documents and things. Yeah, really good.
I'm Jill Stables. I work at the Blessed Sacrament Primary School in Preston. I've always wanted to blog with the children in school. school, but I've always been a little bit worried about the e-safety side, about putting our school blogs out there. The Moodle 1.9 blogs were okay, but there was no chance for feedback to the children, and that's something that they love, and that's something that a WordPress blog would do. But the new comment block means that they can actually feedback on each other's blogs now, which is a fantastic thing. The teachers can feedback and the children can feedback, so it makes a blog worthwhile. The other positive benefit is the way that the children can mark their own completed activities, which I think is a really good idea, especially in primary, because they tend to race to the activities that they think they're going to enjoy doing the most and stick with those. And so you can set the Moodle courses so that once an activity has been completed, only then another activity will show, and I think that's going to be great, especially in primary.
So that's all quite positive, but I am aware that one of the biggest problems is the new way that files are managed and stored, and once you've uploaded them, how do you find them, and so on and so forth. So I actually asked them that question, how do you find the new file management system? And this is what I got.
I thought it was easier to upload your own files. You've got loads more options. You know, you've got the YouTube from the server. You can have now your own private section for that particular class to keep their files logged in a safe place, which is good.
Again, I think there are more options there than previously. Like, for example, the Dropbox, and you can have your own personal area of files. So it just strikes me as being a lot easier to keep track of things, more options.
I like the new uploading menu. I think it's a bit more standardised for the programmes. It looks better, gives you more choices. You can upload straight from YouTube and Google Docs, and it's easier, I think, for people that are not quite as confident in uploading files to have a go, because it's more obvious what you're doing than the old scary Moodle 1.9.
Well, I'm sorry, but that is completely the wrong answer, really, because why are they not complaining that where are the course files? They can't put the folders on, and so on and so forth, which is not what I expected. And I thought, is it perhaps because that's not the kinds of things that they do? Are they more used to the interactive activities and it's not a problem? I only got one person who was worried about this from a different school, and maybe that's because in his school that is the way they operate. He was too shy to come on camera, but he did actually agree to speak. So here are his concerns for you to listen to.
I'm an administrator for a Moodle used by a Church of England high school in Lancashire. My school has used Moodle enthusiastically since 2007. I really like Moodle 2.0's docking feature for admin and the course links. And the personal files option is very useful indeed. We will make much use of it. My real issue with 2.0 is the way you view the files associated with a course. In 1.9, there is a logic about opening files from the admin block. File management for teachers and administrators is perhaps less easy in 2.0. I do have concerns that teachers will have to use this, and coercing or encouraging teachers to use it is perhaps the hardest nut to crack.
The hardest nut to crack. So how can we crack it? How can we make the move, particularly with the files, from 1.9 into 2? I think we have to emphasise the usefulness of the new private files facility, where you can store your own files. When you're ready to show them to your class, you get them from there and you put them on the central page. There's another workaround. You and your colleagues can have a folder to put your files in, hide it, and then get your files from there. There is, very contentious, but there is the old course files back under a new name, legacy course files, if you're really desperate. I didn't switch it on when I had those teachers training, and they didn't miss it. But it's there, but again, it does have backup restore issues and so on. But to me, I think, and those teachers playing with it for me proved it all the more, the main thing is we should try and change the mindset. Moving from 1.9 to 2 is a great opportunity, again, to re-emphasise the fact that it's not just about putting on your folders of files. And that's where the rear guard can come in, the background support to those teachers. For instance, words. Rudyard Kipling. I am by calling a dealer in words, and words are the most powerful drug known to mankind. I'm a big fan of changing the language language editing in 1.9, language customization in Moodle 2, to make it more teacher, student, tutor, pupil, user-friendly. They've gone a little bit towards that in Moodle 2. They've changed this word directory to folder. They've changed text or web page simply to page. The mere thought of composing a web page put a lot of teachers off because they didn't want to do that. But do a page, yeah, I can do that. We have kind of taken a backward step in that now they call a website a URL, and believe me, not everyone knows what a URL is. But if you're the administrator, you can change the words to make them fit. And that's already starting on a positive bent. Your army cadets, your pupils, again, not my idea, not new. Digital leaders, pupil Moodlers, student Moodlers, train some of your pupils to use Moodle as the teaching rights, and they can help the teachers. Your teacher gets stuck in a class because they can't remember how to get the password for a new pupil who's come in. The pupil Moodlers know, they learn it much quicker and much better than teachers. So get them on board. And I know they'll never go and ask questions on the forums because they have a life, unlike me, but something on Moodle.org that is very useful, particularly if you are going to move to Moodle 2, is that you can download it on your network. You can get Mount Orange School, which is a real school experience with students, teachers, activities, and they can go and they can look and they can see the other kinds of things that you can do that aren't putting on your PowerPoints. And a luxury, I know it's a luxury. See those there, that's from our GCSE French, and there are a lot of scorn packs. And we have a technical assistant, Emma. She does the tweets on the Our Learning Twitter account. And part of her job is just to upload scorn packs, PowerPoints, past paper files, the drudgery, the mundane tasks that teachers, the admin tasks, that teachers shouldn't necessarily have to do, so that they can focus on the more interactive tasks, and they can sit back and chill with a cup of coffee, and perhaps then becoming a little bit more aware that Moodle is not as scary as you think. And I don't know where I'm at for time, but I've finished now. Okay?
Perfect time, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
There's certainly 5 minutes for as long as we need really for any comments or questions. But thank you ever so much. If I could just say that as a teacher, recognising that you said yourself that you don't know everything, that has to be a good sign. And I personally picked up some great tips and ideas there. So thank you for an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments?
You can talk to me afterwards if you like, because we've got time, haven't we, which is nice, really. So.
There certainly is time, but
Thank you. Oh,
don't forget that
let's take the microphone and pass it on now. There you go.
You're all set. Well, in that case, thanks ever so much once again, Mary.
Thank you.
And I know I'll be handing you later to sign my copy of your book, Moodle 2 at First Look. Free advert there for you. And without further ado, it gives me great pleasure, therefore, to introduce our next speaker. Drew, I know a little bit less about, but the internet's a wonderful thing.
Probably best.
Yeah, and that's right. And therefore, all I know, if it's still correct as of today, is that Drew joins us here as the head of ICT at the Royal Masonic School in Bedfordshire. So,
Rickmansworth.
Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire.
I got the county
That's
wrong.
all right.
I got the rest of it right.
That's okay.
And I'm looking forward to your presentation on using Moodle to administer GCSE cultural assessments.
It sounds very dry, and my apologies
I'm
for...
sure you'll sort that out. Yeah, so it's you, Drew.
Can I just interject slightly? I'd also like to say Drew was one of the first ever Moodle presenters in Oxford in 2004.
So,
And he stepped in at the very last minute when one of our presenters dropped out.
fantastic.
Bless you.
He's famous.
I still have the Moodle bag. He should have brought it with me. I should have brought it with me. And in actual fact, Sean, I know it sounds like Mutual Appreciation Society, but the fact that it's worth it. It wouldn't be right of me. In fact, were Sean not here, I would be having his ears burning, because the community use and the community support of Moodle, without that I wouldn't be a user now. And Sean was the person who, when I wanted to use Moodle way back in as long ago as that, I hadn't realised, and I had no technical expertise nor knowledge for how to do it. I went on to Moodle.org and said, I'd like to use Moodle, but I don't know where to begin. And Sean said, look, if all that's holding you back is your technical or lack of technical know-how, then...
Just checking. It might be worth, just so to interrupt, just in case we don't pick
Okay. He said if it's your lack of technical know-how that's holding you back, then let me host it for you. And he duly did, and I really can't thank him enough. And it's really greatly to his credit that I'm still using Moodle. Anyway, this is my Moodle. It's not fantastically successful in every regard, but I want to talk to you about a specific element of it. It's very hard to follow Mary speaking. I'm glad that's the first time I've had to do it, because I don't know, I want to keep doing it every time because of the tremendous example that we get from what she's talking about, how to get people using Moodle and the best way to do it. And what I would say is, if before I go on to talk about the controlled assessment element of my presentation, that I struggle frequently with getting my colleagues to take on Moodle, and possibly you're the same if you've tried to do it in your school. And what I can say is this is absolutely the best thing I've ever done in trying to do that, and I'll hopefully show you why. Before I do that, how many of you, just not as many of you, how many of you do or deliver GCSEs in your school? Right, so it really is only those of you who do that I'm really addressing here. This is the thing now. For those who don't know, and there's a lack of hands going up, you might get less from my talk than you might have thought before you're coming. What I will say is, I signed up for this as a workshop, and I thought you were going to be sat at a computer, and I thought that in an hour we'd be making our own. So I've kind of readjusted it to fit. So that's why you're going to see my example, and I'll probably be done in about 15 minutes. Or less. Anyway, the controlled assessment is a little bit of a background. What it is if you don't know, GCSEs changed in schools as of this year, or last year, depending on what subject you teach, and where the days of old of coursework, where pupils were given coursework for the GCSEs and could take it home, and grandma, granddad, uncle, neighbour, brother, sister, whoever could help you at home. It was not necessarily the work of the pupil. Pupil would bring it in, there's my work, marked, sent off. And of course, that's all changed. And so now schools are bound by controlled assessment. And how that works is that there are various tiers, and I'll come back to that in a little bit, but it's worth knowing there are various tiers of controlled assessment. And worse than that, the controlled assessment means different things to different exam boards and to different subjects. I'll come back to that in a bit. So what happens is, in a nutshell, is that all the coursework that used to be and is now controlled assessment has to be done in the four walls of a classroom and cannot leave the building. Can't go home, can't be emailed home, can't be accessed from home via school. And in schools where we've spent all our time, certainly speaking for ourselves, of providing access so that people can sign in from home to access their work from school, then we've spent all our time doing that, and now we've actually got to find a way to lock them out. And what I'm going to show you may not be, you may think this is a cat-handed way of doing it, what I'm going to show you. You may think that it's not really a solution I've made, a kind of rod from my own back or whatever. Anyway, when I show you it, make your own, come to your own conclusions as to whether you think I'm doing it right or not. But what I will say is, to try and get colleagues on board and using Moodle, this is the thing that's made bigger inroads than anything else I've tried to do. They all use the name Miraculous around school now, where for 5 years they didn't really, only some people did on certain subjects. So that has been a big winner. And on that point, I will say, I've learned the power of never underestimating the power of a good name for your Moodle, because Miraculous rolls off the tongue. That's actually an anagram and an acronym. So it stands for Royal Masonic School Internet Portal and Online Learning Environment, all stuck into Anagram Maker. And anyway, so what we've done in our school to prevent pupils from accessing the work from home. And for a moment I'll talk about the high school, the State Comprehensive, round the road from me, with a fantastic Moodle there called Wikipedia is there. Rickmansworth School is round the corner from me, and my son goes there. And they're doing far better things with Moodle than I am. But one thing that they're doing, and I'm sure they even wouldn't mind me saying it, I'm a governor there, so I suppose I can say what I want about that, is that they have a policy where it's memory sticks that all the work is stored in. Now, I said I'd come back to the different sorts of controlled assessment. There is a low, medium, and high. Low usually means that it's like there's no control. That's the sort of research. You can go away and use the internet, you can do whatever you like, as used to be the case. Medium control, and this is where it differs, so I'm just kind of, this is roughly what it is, but it's different between exam boards and subjects. Medium control means it's still got to be done within these four walls. The work can't leave the room, but you can surf the net, you can do various bits and pieces, but you still can't get that work going home, so you can't allow that work to leave. So when pupils are doing that work, they can't be in their own logged-in area because they could be emailing at home or secreting it somewhere to then get later. So you have to prevent that. So that's low control, medium control. And high control is exam conditions, can't talk to each other, you're not allowed to surf the internet, you're not allowed to do anything except do the work that you've got to do. That's the three levels of control. And that differs between subjects, it differs between exam boards, as I've said before. So you may differ if you think you disagree with what I've just said, then it's more than likely that what you're thinking is correct. And it's like I say, I'm paraphrasing. So what we've had is, in our school, we've had English, geography, history, ICT now, business studies, amongst other subjects who've all been through this. So I've had 100, we have 100 in a year group, and we've had 100 English students twice now simultaneously on doing this. And how it works is we have set up dummy accounts for all our, we have set up 100 dummy accounts, so that's one per pupil in number, and they're randomized, random password, random username. So the pupils then get given these on little laminated cards, and they're given to them randomly in the lesson, so they'll never log on as the same person twice. So when they're logging on, they're getting access to the network, but not as themselves. So when they log on, their My Documents is empty, and when they double-click Internet Explorer, this is the only place they can come when they're on high level. On medium control, they can still surf the net because that's allowed. Now, at this point, you could argue what I'm going to show you is fallible because they could be using something like Google Docs or whatever, Google Mail or another mailing system to still email each other. But what we do is we reinforce to our pupils that if you break these rules, that's like cheating in the exam and you will be disqualified. And they just learn it's like taking a mobile phone into the exam or looking at someone else's work or sneaking a book in. So they're told, we catch you emailing, that's it. We catch you doing this, that's it. You have no second chances. So that usually gets around that they don't want to try being on Google Mail because they can't explain why they're there. If they do that, that's cheating in the exam, that's automatic disqualification. So all my colleagues know this is a site they should be on. And we also have, I don't know if you do this at school, but when in the back, our wallpaper, what we have, our network manager set up so our staff and pupils have a different wallpaper. And we have a third different wallpaper for the controlled assessment logins, so a teacher can see straight away if a pupil's logged in as themselves because the background looks different. That works quite well too. Now, as I said, the school up the road from me, what the other school in Rickmansworth, what they do is they got memory sticks, and they would get a memory stick for every subject for every pupil. Now, you imagine a pupil does, you can imagine how many that is. All you need is one of those memory sticks to go missing. Or what happens to them? Where do they get stored? What happens if a teacher's on cover, on sick or on a course, and they don't have locked them in a cupboard, and the teacher on cover can't get into that? Then that's that lesson can't take place. So that's all the problems that come with where the work is stored, and that was the biggest headache that I'm finding from other people I'm talking to about how they're using, how they're solving the controlled assessment conundrum. So what we did was, it's through using Moodle, and it was just a little kind of brainwave. It was nothing particularly great. But what we came up with was, I realized if you allowed pupils, like I said, if you double-click Internet Explorer icon, you could come here. If we could allow them to do that, and the exam board does say you're not allowed to use the internet at all. So that's just one get round is to here, as long as we secure that this is the only site you can get at. Then what we could do is make a course, and I'll show you one now. So if I go to, let's go to English. Okay, so this is live. I'm not showing you a knocked up dummy account, right? So this is English. And there you can see, these are the controlled assessment classes. So I haven't got a pointer or anything. But what you can see, the top 5 there, that's the controlled assessment class, and these are the initials of the teacher. So if I pick one of these, then you can see this is not the greatest course you've ever seen in your life. Okay, there are only 2 things in it, And that's because they've done 2 controlled assessments. In most of the other examples, I'll show you a couple of others. In fact, if I do go back, I should show you that. Let's show you what the simplest one looks like. Let's go to geography, or history even, history. That'll look better. So this is the most simple one, because all they've got is 1. Okay? Now it's pale grey. Any idea why it's pale grey? Because the eye's shut. Okay? Yeah, hidden, eyes shut. And that's a secret, because if we switch the view to student, they see not available, which means that the work is there, but they can't actually get access to those files. So that, and I'll show you the work is there, because if we go back to normal view, and we go on as a teacher, so I click on here, then this is the pupil's work. This is all the pupils' files. This is all their live controlled assessment files. When they were uploaded, sorry, I'm going to take this off so I can walk across to the board. So they've got the date they were uploaded. These are the actual files in the different versions. And so the teacher can look at the progression to see that cheating's not taking place. Anyone comes in from an exam board can look and say, oh, where's your evidence that this process was carried out? There's the evidence. Because in that you've got less so there. Go to an English one. Is this making sense to? Yeah. So one thing I would point out, the thing that's really good about when I'm demonstrating this to my colleagues is that obviously is a grade book, but you don't put a mark in there because it's not marked in that way. And they quite like the idea. It's also a way to show them the mark book, because where my discussion goes, when I show them this, for example, when I showed the English department this, and I showed them, go here, and I showed them this. So this I was demonstrating. I had the dummy user. So when I demonstrated to them as a dummy user, I showed them this. And then, of course, one of them said, well, what's this for? What would you put in there? Does that mean I could write a comment? So you could write a comment, but you wouldn't want to do it for this. But when you do a course for Macbeth or something, then you could do that. And then we realised, oh, well, we'll revisit Moodle again to do that sort of thing. So anyway, so if I come over here, this is a pupil X, which you get copyright, whatever, Data Protection Act. There is, one of the other cool things about Moodle is that if you upload a document with the same name, it gives it an _1 and _2, so my colleagues got quickly to understand there was no panic. What happens if the pupil doesn't give it another name? Doesn't matter, because Moodle will rename it, and the highest number is the newest version. So this is back in November. So my colleagues were very, very quickly able to see who hadn't uploaded the work in that session. They could see at a glance who hadn't uploaded. They could also see if there should be 3 in there, and only 2, they'd know whether people had uploaded it successfully or not. And then, of course, the fantastic thing about it being, you being able to click on the document and open it, they can then relieve the stress from the pupils in their class. And we're lucky in our school, private girls' school, my GCSE class is 6. And that English class was something like 16, okay, not 30 odd. Now, I've been too long in that school to remember what it was like to have 30 kids want to print at the same time. I can only begin to imagine the panic. And of course, this relieves that tension, because you don't have the printer working overtime, running out of print and the ink packing in, because now the teacher can just say, right, I'm going to print off your last copies, print them all off. It's the teacher who has that at their leisure, not the pupil stressed out in the lesson to do, because all the work is there. And like I said, all the work is there should, I don't know whether they will, should an exam board come to my school can now hand on its heart say, there's the evidence that the procedure was followed. If we upload Stephanie's work here, you'll see that and that will show progression. It's not like it's been copied off somebody else and magically it's a different piece of work. And then all we did was, all we've done here is, in the English courses, is they're going to have 2 more. This is your year 10, year 11, there'll be 2 more in here. And then that work will remain there for whenever anyone wants to see it. What we decided, because our geography department chose to do this, that they wanted multiple documents, something I'd never played with before, and probably I've come too late to the party to be doing it. But what I hadn't played around with was the setting up an assignment, whether I've done that right, yes I have, which is the the maximum, yeah, sorry, scrolled up too high. The made, as you've seen, there were multiple documents. So that although you can make it single, this was advanced uploading of files. I made in actual fact, it was a gigabyte in size. I managed to negotiate it with my host just temporarily for some of them, because business studies does publisher documents, which can be colossal. So this number can go higher under negotiation with my host. And I made the maximum number 20 here, so they could upload up to 20 files, depending on what the subject was. Now in English only wanted 3, but in our business studies and geography, they were actually going up to 20. So this became a working area, because the pupils can see their work when they've uploaded it. And this is a way in which that work can then be kept safe, and it's not likely you'd be going, because it doesn't leave these 4 walls, because as soon as the eye is shut, as it is in this example, that work cannot be accessed by anybody but the administrator, or someone with administration rights. And so, it means that, you know, when pupils, we have had some problems when pupils have been ill. That's the biggest problem. I appreciate that would be a bigger problem in a school where it's 30 in a class, or 250 in a year group than there is in our school. But we still have problems with when people are absent catching up. And that's probably the biggest headache that's created. As well as one of the issues, which was saving, because a lot of our pupils, when you load up a Word document, what a lot of them were doing, to the point that I did have tears on a couple of occasions, was if pupil, in this case Stephanie, came along and she uploaded this document, what a lot of them were doing was just doing save, and it's not saving in the My Documents, it's saving in the ether in some random URL. So at the end, so this is the biggest headache I had, was that so pupil types away after an hour, they think they've been doing Control S, but it's not been saving in the My Documents, it's been saving up here somewhere. So when they come to finish, they'll close this, because they think they've been saving it regularly. So they close this document, and it's not saved where they can get at it, that they can navigate to. So they end up losing their work. And that's proved. That has been the one headache that we've had. Apart from that, it's led to me now having miraculously, everyone in my school knows what it is above year 9, year 7 and 8 using it, depending on the teacher, but everyone above year 9 knows what it is. It's got the word used by all my colleagues, we've got our Moodle being explored by others, and it's been positively spoken about. So it may not be a solution for everybody, but it does. If you are able to use if your use of controlled assessment is tied to the use of computers, then this offers one solution. I know the history department in my school have had some people handwriting, but they're walking around the history department with crates full of folders, and it's a major headache that the exam boards didn't think about, and I'm very thankful that Moodle has offered the possibility to solve it here. Right, but I told you it wouldn't be very long.
Perfect timing, and lots of time left for discussion. I think we've got a question already.
Yeah. Shall I repeat the question by the way?
Yeah, would you mind picking
Yeah.
up the microphone if you can in your pockets, and we've got plenty of time, so
Okay.
if you don't mind repeating the question.
Okay.
Ask the question again.
Yeah.
Please.
You said that each student was given a special name and a login page. So how did they come back?
Right, the special login was only to get onto the network. So instead of them being Mary Jones and their usual password would let them onto the network in the usual way, we have 100 medium accounts, which are medium 1 to medium 100, with a randomized login password. And then that's medium control. And a high control, we've got control 1 to 100. And so medium control allows them to surf the net. There is no, that when they log in, it's not their own email box. That's the crucial thing, is that when they log in, it isn't their mailbox that they can see, because it's to prevent them emailing the stuff home. But what we tried to do, like I told you about the school up the road from me who've got memory sticks galore, and not only do we not want memory sticks at all for all the problems that could come with broken and lost, etc., but also we tried to make it so it was a minimum amount of work for my network manager. So that what we did was we worked it out that there'd be no one simultaneously on more than 100, like the whole of English. If everyone in the English department, that's all that would be on at one time, because we wouldn't have 2 year groups doing controlled assessment simultaneously. So we decided that you only need 100 accounts. Now that might change next year as more people start to use them, but that's not the Moodle element, that's the network administration side. But yes, which they right. Sorry, right. Sorry, I should have got round to that. The classroom management element at the end of the lesson. This is what you're saying: is that the classroom management, the teachers were instructed that every pupil had to delete the files once they were uploaded. So once a file is uploaded, it's then removed out of the right. So in control account 1, I log into control 1 to do my work. I start typing. I've got to save it somewhere in order to put it onto Moodle, so I save it in my documents as essay. And so I save it in there, and I upload it, because I have to save it to upload it to Moodle. I put it in Moodle, then I check it's there, so I can see it's here, because the pupil sees it. Of course, is that, if I go to her account, oh, hang on, no, I know what I need to do, sorry. I go here, I think I should see it. Yeah, you see it like that. The pupil sees it like this. This is our dummy example which I was trying out. So the pupil sees this, and then they know it's uploaded. And what we encouraged them to do was don't quit yet. And once you've uploaded it, click on the link and see it that it opens. Okay, so in this case, let's say I've done this work. I've uploaded it. I now check that it's uploaded. Now I'm happy that it's uploaded. And now I can close this. And prior to logging off, I go into my documents and I delete the original file so that the folder remains empty for the next pupil to come along. Is that what you meant when you said yes? Yes. So theoretically, if a teacher's vigilant, then they make sure that the pupil deletes the work that was in the folders. But to be honest, with some of the stuff I've been hearing about what schools are doing with controlled assessment, I think the rigour that we're doing here is above and beyond the call of duty. And that, a lot where it's still going on at home and hoping no one's ever going to notice. I know some schools that I've heard of where some of my colleagues have been to English and history sessions run by the exam board, and when the exam board's left the room or they're eating at lunch, they'll just say, what are you doing? Because I'm just letting them do it like a old coursework. No one's going to come and check. And we want to be completely scrupulously clean, and that's why if anyone came to me, I appreciate you could say, well, there is errors, but we do everything we can and constantly remind the girls that, one, for example, that they can't be on their own account as well. So if we did have one girl who absent-mindedly, just by habit, a really good girl, signed in, was about to start work. My colleague hadn't missed it. This was in performing arts. My colleague had completely missed it. She has no call to use a computer as much, and she hadn't actually noticed the background was different. But I noticed it, and I went, why are you on? You're logged on as yourself, aren't you? And she went, no, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. And she genuinely had, just by habit, logged on as herself and not as the card. And that's the sort of thing that could have caused a problem, but we nip it in the bud as soon as possible. That's all right. But they can't, can they? Yeah, they can't. They can't because that. No, they can't. It need to be there. See, they need that working document. That document doesn't exist. It exists nowhere. So this. If we go back to Stephanie, right? If we go back to Stephanie here. Right? The thing about controlled assessment is these documents that Stephanie's written can exist nowhere as documents because they're not allowed to go home. She can't email them herself. That's the only 3 copies of that document that exist. To where? To my documents that isn't hers. Yeah, yeah, this was over 3 lessons, so that's the same document. So, yeah, yeah, Logged in as a dummy account, so she downloads it to that, because that's the procedure. Sorry, in case I wasn't clear. So at the end of lesson, lesson 1, she's uploaded this. Teacher shuts the eye. So I should have pointed out, but I think I took it as read. You might know I did that. So teacher shuts the eye. Pupil can't get it in the interim period. Start of the next lesson, teacher opens the eye and says, right, all of you, go and get your document. So Stephanie comes along and uploads this document, starts working on it and saves it in the dummy account again. Randomized login that's not hers. She then saves it again and uploads it, and that's how you get. You see 9th of November 2010 was that one, and this one here would have been done on the 10th, probably. I don't know, the date might not change, but they probably won't, because she'll type the date in there. But this was done on the next day, and the 12th was the last day. 3 times, 3 different control number accounts, and each time she got to upload it and save it, make the changes, save it, end of the time, upload it. So those files, unless what you're saying is, what's to stop them bringing a memory stick in and saving on that, because that's the only way they could get it home. But again, that's down to vigilance of the teacher, of saying to them, if any of you are caught with a memory stick, that's cheating, you will be disqualified. And if a teacher isn't prepared to do that, then they're the sort of teacher who'd be prepared to, in invigilating an exam, let 2 kids talk to each other in the middle of a formal exam. That doesn't happen. So all I've had to constantly do, because this is the English department, I've left it up to the head of English to say what she wants enforced in the department. If she's happy for them to just be kind of blasé about it, that's fine. But I know that my head of English wasn't. She'd say it's got to be done just so. You will make sure that they have deleted the work and there's no chance of cross-pollination or anything. Sorry.
Just a quick one. So I missed the step in there somewhere. When they're logged on the dummy account,
Yes.
and they go into and log into the MLE as themselves.
Yes.
As themselves.
Yes. Yeah, because they need to be themselves in order to upload the work, but there's no problem there, because that in this case, Stephanie needs to be identified as Stephanie. All that the dummy account is doing is making sure when Stephanie goes onto the network, she's not accessing her webmail to be able to email at home. She's not accessing her own My Documents to save it in there under a kind of code name that she can access while she's away and be working at home, so when she comes back in, she's prepared. Because these documents, this is why it depends upon the subject. Some subjects, you can take the work away.
We're English the same as that, so we need to do it like that. The only problem is our kids get into their school email is the same way they get through Moodle. So can I create an alternative login to Moodle and then just go straight to that? Our kids go on and it says like line of my emails and Moodle across the top.
Right. I mean, that would be the difficult would be if they can access email in any way. Well, the other way is because I'm presuming this is sort of getting beyond me, and someone else here might know better than I. That if you have some way of locking that when they log on as a dummy account, it's got restrictions, and one of those is no use of webmail. If that's webmail that. Yes. Yeah. If that's.
That's a lot easier ahead of what we're proposing in school. Yeah.
I'm head of ICT like you. I run a year 7 ICT course. Half dozen teachers, almost 200 kids. It's entirely digital. There are no exercise books, there's no textbooks. Everything has to be handed in using exercise. But I use groups so that I, as head of department, can pull up and check what all the teachers work, and I can see the whole year. Why not use
Right, for ease, really. I did say to you at the outset, probably some of you would pick. I'm not saying you've done that. I'm putting words in your mouth, but pick fault with what I'm suggesting. It is not the only way to have done it. But the reason I chose to do this was, and your solution actually probably would have been better with hindsight, is because I had different levels of expertise amongst. I mean, to a lot of these colleagues, this was their first use of it through no choice of theirs. We're up till now, a lot of the Moodle use in my school has been like my own, a labour of love. I've chosen to use it. It's not really been enforced from on high. We tried to do that, and it wasn't exactly 100% successful. anyway, the fact that they've got colleagues here for whom they will use a computer as little as possible, and this has been the main way to do it. I didn't want to overcomplicate it with groups or whatever. I wanted to make sure that every, and also, I will say the other thing is, just so a teacher knew they could see their entire class through the easiest route, and the easiest route being, a pupil signs in, they're a member of LAD English group, that is the Mrs. Adamson's English class. Then there's only 16 pupils in there. Mrs. Adamson knows there's only 16. The kids know there's only 16. It's not one massive English with groups. And it means that Leslie, my colleague, knows that when she goes in here, she can cleanly click on assignments and, in one click, see only her work without having to go hunting for groups unless there's an easier way to have looked for that. She just knows that's her class in a minimum number of clicks. But probably groups, like a year from now, that might be something we'd do. Right. But, well, it was only minimal. I mean, there was only a minimal amount. That took me 5 minutes to do. It depends what your desired outcome is. In my case, like I said, well, in fact, when we showed one, what I'll show you is I'm really impressed with this. You might not be, but I am. My business studies colleague, she really went to town with it. I think this is it. And what she's done, she built, all I did was showed her that top one. I sat down for 2 minutes and showed her what to do, and before I knew it, when I went back in, she'd done this. She'd made that herself after I'd shown her what to do. And so how this one worked, sorry, by the way, Mary's having no opportunity to answer. Sorry. All right, bless you, but please do shut me up. So this here, if we go to the research, how this worked, okay, so there are 10 in this business studies class. Okay, now you see what I mean. You probably see publisher documents in there, right? Now, so this is the class of 10s, all their research material they did in the medium control time where they could be doing work, surfing the net and doing whatnot. What happened was, and why this is quite a little bit different than the others, is that what Anne would do for this lesson would be that she would have two eyes open. So if I turn editing on, so if this class, she set them. She was quite draconian in one way and quite authoritarian in saying that you will only do the newspaper advert in this lesson, or the flyer. So what she'd do is she'd open those two eyes. We turn the editing off. Go to student. Switch to student. So her students saw that. Right, not available. So this is all they can do in the lesson, and all her student can do is one, click on the material. Oh, sorry, they can't see the blast. I forgot that. Sorry, just a second. Back to my normal role. What the student can do is one, see the files that they've been working on in the research phase. So that Christina, there's all Christina's researches all there. She can still go and get those because she hasn't got a My Documents to go to. That's her My Documents, and then from there, Christina can then, working on that, then the steps 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the actual markable coursework. That was the research phase. The rest was for marking. So this, if we go here, there's Christina's two documents, one the analysis and one which she actually made. And that's her actual coursework, having come from the research period that she did before. And like I said, my colleague did that all off her own back, which I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw she'd gone that far. To have taken it a stage further than I ever thought. I thought bundle it in one place.
Can I ask one question? Everybody else got any thoughts? I guess from an external examiner, external verifier point of view, there will be reasons why you might want it in Word document format, for example, perhaps. But say something about external perhaps verification might be. But would it be possible to do the drafts early on as a text assignment to avoid those problems, the odd 1 in 100 where somebody forgets to perhaps save it?
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, right. You could do that, but again, the thing now that's probably easier than this. But as far as my colleagues are concerned, and going back to why my colleagues have always been, a large number of them, been reticent about Moodle, is it doesn't look like Microsoft Office. I mean, that was my biggest headache when I first started using 2004. Yeah. Whereas if even though it's more complicated to do in Word and upload and all the rigmarole, Word is a comfort zone for them, or PowerPoint or whatever. It means that they know where they are with that, even though they could just be typing in a box. And I suppose the other thing with that is what happens if the computers crash. How do you save in that form? And that tends to be work lost. That I would say that, and we did have that happen. We had a network crash in the middle of the English.
You're right, there's a downside to that as well. And we've all probably experienced that.
Yes.
Horror when you type something into a forum, spend half an hour doing it.
Yes.
So you're right. Thanks ever so much. The discussion might well continue. We could perhaps just take 5 minutes even to open it up even further. Can I just formally thank you though for a very energetic and engaging presentation and absolutely fascinating. This morning, I think you were present at the presentation from the Welsh Primary School project. Perhaps you weren't, but we were, weren't we, Mary? And there was Moodle being used as a portfolio, essentially, a mini e-portfolio. And here it's being used as a portfolio as well. So quite fascinating to see some similarities and differences. Thanks so much. Mary, your background clearly is in teaching and certainly secondary school. Is this something that you have any experience of using Moodle for?
Well, it's interesting because all of our ICT from year 7 to year 11 is all on Moodle, and we do our OCR nationals, and it's all on Moodle. We don't have yet, but it's all changing now for various political reasons. We don't have this controlled assessment. I'm going to take it back and suggest to people at history department that they use it, for instance. And I really like the idea of the network accounts, different from the ones that they normally have. I think that's great. But what we do is for the OCR nationals, they upload everything into a Moodle course, and then when we get our moderator who comes however often, they just sit down in front of the computer, and then they log in and they can see it all there, and they're quite happy that rather than huge reams of paper.
Yeah, in the past I might have gone to a room with loads of portfolios.
That's
what
right.
happened in your situation, Drew?
Well, the comfort zone for a lot of my colleagues is to still print it out.
Yes.
And it did save our bacon one time when the girl and all the process we thought we'd seen through, because it's worth pointing out I'm an IT coordinator, but we're a long spread out site with computer rooms probably from like Euston Square to here apart, and it seemed like that way anyway. And sometimes when the English department were on, I was having to run that length. I was free at the time running down to try and help them. And one girl, it turned out that she hadn't got her work done that way, and so it could be that he's not without his problems doing that particular way. The other thing that we found is that my colleagues were very much made more happy when the whole English department came to, because the English department did it. I mean, every pupil, that's how they got the training in Moodle, was controlled assessment, learning how to upload the work, and it means that any other of my colleagues now they're not starting from scratch. I'm able to say, don't worry if you're in design technology and you've got to do controlled assessment with your year 11s. Don't worry if you don't know how to do it. I'm going to show you the only steps you need, which is open the eye and shut the eye. Turn editing on, open the eye, shut the eye. That's it. 3 steps is all they need to do. Whereas it's the pupils that do the work, and they know what to do because every one of them's done it in English.
Sure.
Yeah, as I said, part of my role is primary liaison. We get the year 5s from our 10th reader primaries to log into our Moodle from year 5. We come on some special days, and they start a little ICT course actually. It's called Bronze Ingots. It's out there, and in order to pass that, they have to upload a presentation and a drawing and so on using OpenOffice. And so from year 5 and throughout year 6, they're using Moodle. So when they come to us in year 7 for good for big school, they're already used to it and they've got the login, and there's nothing special about going into lots of different subject areas and using assignments.
Are there any other final comments or questions? Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm really interested in how you get teachers
Happy to
use Moodle. Yeah,
well, if I can say, in this case, there's no choice in the matter, because our school made a policy decision, irrespective of how else Moodle's been used in my school. That my school last year our senior leadership team, our director of studies said, what we're going to do about controlled assessment, and I was proactive, because I knew I'd worked out this as a solution, what I was going to do, and I thought, normally I'd sit down in my little corner, I'd shut up about it, but no, I'm going to go in, I'm going to knock her door and say, I've got a solution for controlled assessment, here it is. And I got knockback after knockback, I got 5 knockbacks, oh, you don't want to do it in Moodle, everyone's going to hate that. And I said, no, this is the solution, because what we're going to do otherwise, memory sticks, we're going to have paper, we're going to have this and that. And so as soon as I showed them it practically working 4 times to director studies, she ended up realising that it was worth actually pursuing. So, I mean, in this case, no choice, no matter.
Yeah, they've got to see a need for it. They've got to find something useful for them in their lives. If only that if they put resources on 1 year, then they don't have to do it the next year, so it's saving them a bit of time, that kind of thing. I think another thing that's very helpful is if a few people start using it, pupils get on board really quickly, and then they'll go and they'll say, oh, Mr. So-and-so's putting his work on Moodle, can you not do it? And the other teachers might not have been keen initially. They're thinking, oh, well, maybe if I can get them a bit more interested by putting some of my stuff on Moodle, then it can work that way, so you get your pupils driving it up from the bottom.
And I think one thing you said that really resonated with me was when you said that almost the worst, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, was that the worst advocates for Moodle are the ICT department. In my case, because people see it as an ICT solution for ICT, and my favourite example was using a geography teacher sitting over my shoulder. I deliberately had the whiteboard on as I was doing some work. She was sat there, and I'm clack on the keys so she couldn't miss me doing it. And I saw her, I could tell she was watching, and eventually she said to me, what's that you got? It looks really interesting. I said, I'm preparing my A-level ICT course, and she became an advocate for it because she went away and played. But the thing that I haven't really done justice to, my little bit was my colleagues' positivity. Without that and the pupil positivity helped drive it along. I don't know what it would have been like if both of them, and no kids complained. They just got on with it. They saw it as being helpful. They saw it was alleviating their stress, and they were really positive about it. And my colleagues, as soon as they accepted that this was the way it was to be done, and in actual fact, if they bit the bullet, it really actually was a lot easier than whatever alternatives they were, and they appreciated it. I got cards, wine, chocolates. I've never been as popular in the school as I have since I've done it. So if you try it for no other reason, then please do for that.
I was just going to say with getting teachers to buy in, I've been buying for a good year now to try and get our teachers on board. We just had an Ofsted, and we were just overwhelmingly told that our students weren't independent enough, and it's almost that need. It's like you said, this was the need, and you jumped on the wagon. So if you're sitting in the wings waiting, and someone says, how do we do this? And you go, well, actually, Moodle does that. It does much more, but it's fitting it in. It's being aware of what's happening in your school community, and if people are bashing their heads going, why? How can we get controlled assessment? How can we get our learners more independent? And you seize that opportunity to demonstrate to people that the positivity is overwhelming because it's suddenly that answer that people have been worrying about.
It's not a problem looking for a solution. It's it really is, which is what a lot of VLE installation has been with schools. And we told you've got to have one without actually realising why.
That's right. Year after year they say, go on Moodle, and all the teachers say, well, it's heaps of extra work. Well, as the heads come back and said, make your students more independent. How do I do that? Well, go on Moodle. And it's a different mindset. It's a different path to an end. And the teachers are much more enthusiastic about it. But when we roll things out, last year we rolled them out, and everyone was told, put stuff on Moodle. Now we're just taking it all up again 12 months later.
Interesting though that there's a few threads running through there, and one of them is, if you like, a psychological approach. Mary's first slide was the coffee and the teacher relaxing, and you're quite right,
It's all a bit on.
we're all
Hours and hours and hours.
Yeah,
You just don't tell them that.
Yeah, no, you're quite right. But if a manager asks you to do something, perhaps dare I say, many of us are less likely to do it. If you see a colleague doing something whizzy, peer pressure works. If a student asks for it, then that will work. So I think a bit of kidology and a bit of psychology does work. And as we've seen perfectly with Drew's presentation and Joe and Mary, that if you can not just sell the benefits, but actually find a solution to an existing problem, then you're halfway there. So I guess as ever, a bit of mixed approach, but a bit of kidology sometimes will work better than trying to tell people what to do. As we all know, we prefer sometimes to discover things for ourselves than to be told what to do.
There's a story I heard, this is going back to 2005. It was the GCSE said, well, he hit upon the simple fact that a teacher would do anything for a sandwich. So he started secreting little treats around the school grounds, basically. And all the clues as where to find the treats were in the VLE. So in order to find the prizes, the teachers, I mean, the kids didn't, the kids were straight on, you know, didn't have to be persuaded. But in order to find the prizes, the teachers had to basically explore the VLE, go into all the different places where they could get into and read things and click buttons and follow links. And he said after a week or so, he'd get into school really early and there'd be teachers there already hunting. They found what they thought was a clue and they were hunting for the prize. And so that was his teacher psychology experiment.
Well, it sounds interesting. If all else fails, then
If all else fails, bribery works, yes.
Can I take this opportunity as we head towards the end of this session to formally thank both of our presenters, and can we show our appreciation in the usual way? However, Drew, were you going to just say one last thing to finish off there?
No, just it's only just I realised that I don't need to mention this, but this is just an alternative. This is a use of the wiki in the ICT controlled assessment, because that works totally differently. The high and medium control that my ICT class has breaks all the rules of all the others. And it's just that my class, they came up with this idea. They said, can we make a wiki? Because one of the things they've got to do for ICT is collaborate. So although it's meant to be independent, the preparatory work's got to be collaborative. This is for OCRs, GCSE. And so they said, can't we use a wiki in it? And they chose their own different colours. This is just one example of it. To come up with some questionnaire questions. They could all go away and ask their subjects about their use of ICT so they could be prepared. And so that is another, that's within the controlled assessment for ICT. That's not submission of documents. It just shows there's a place for the other tools. I've got chat room. So the chat room's in there as well. And again, I turn it off and on. So it's only valid, it's only active when to the pupils when they're in my lesson for that. They can't add to outside. Anyway, that's just thought I'd show it.
Is that just the basic Moodle wiki?
That's in the Moodle wiki, yeah. No, well, we only wanted a rough and ready thing.
Wait, do you make your kids use iExplorer then? Because it works with Moodle wiki for fun with Chrome and stuff.
Yeah, we have Firefox and Internet Explorer in our network.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes,
We can continue the discussions over a cup of coffee, but once again, thanks so much.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very glad that I've shared the platform with your good self.
Okay, you're just going to be
Don't you? I've not had a single response to our
People should reply to you to like the Olympics.
Yeah, well, that's what they're supposed to be doing, but I've not had any yet.
You thought I was joking, but I'm not. I can go to sleep a happy man.
What shall I sing you?
I'm Jim, and if you want to say happy moodling or happy moodle too, or God help us with the class or do it. So don't want that. No, whatever you like.
I'll sing sometimes.
And just happy moodling or whatever comes to
Right,
mind.
let's try again.
Into it.
Do you know, I use a pen so infrequently now, I'm beginning to forget how to write. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. I could never write anyway, and it's got even worse, I'm afraid. But thanks for that. And seriously, I won't embarrass any more of everyone else, but I found your book very useful.
Oh,
so,
thank you.
I'm sure you must have had some good feedback, but it's been great. Thanks.
Oh, I've been signing it, haven't I?
Yeah, that's good to increase in value. That's it. Brilliant.
You can tell I'm not used to that.
That's
There
it.
you go.
That's fantastic. I appreciate that.
Coffee time.
Good stuff. I think